very fitting. We're sitting here with the perfect beer, and we are talking about some of the worst beers we've had.
We are sitting here with a beer that we just reviewed, the Eyinger Celebrator, that got the perfect beer rating. It joined our coveted, holy, sacred, legendary perfect beer roundtable. And so this episode, what we thought it would be fun to do would be to revisit in our minds, in our memories, 5 of the worst rated beers on beer brackets. Beers that, and we like to be positive. We're positive beer reviewers. So, we have our rating system. The lowest level of our rating system is it's beer. So, it's not necessarily something that is noteworthy.
No, exactly. That's not negative in a sense. It's there.
It's just a beer.
That's what it is.
It's just a beer. So what we're going to do, we're going to count down the top 5 lowest rated beers on the channel. And we're just going to give our general thoughts, reminisce on it a little bit, and see if we can remember why they got the ratings that they did and why they scored so low and just how we feel about those beers today. So hopefully you all get a kick out of this. Number 5 of our lowest rated beers was Budweiser. It came in at, you rated it 1.67. Actually, we both rated it 1.67 on 5, which fell into that it's a nice beer, that nice beer category. So that one I found super interesting because a lot of people really like Budweiser. And breaking it down category by category like that was super interesting. Do you remember what it was about it that caused you to rate it that low?
That's probably a beer out of the many offerings here in the U.S. is a beer that was available also quite readily in Italy. So maybe like that had something to do with it, like compared to others. If I had to say one characteristic that I like less compared to other beer is the fact that it's very adjunct oriented and obviously being brewed.
Yeah. Very corny.
Yeah, it has like...
Well, actually, Budweiser's rice. Sorry. It's not even corn.
There's... Again, trying to be positive, I just find it like not necessarily as malt forward as I would like it. Let's put it that way. I think that's a main characteristic. I would say made it rate low for me. Well, how about you, man?
Yeah, man, it was similar. Just very, adjunct heavy is a good way to do it. We describe these kinds of beers as being processed, that kind of processed maltiness. It's not a repulsive beer when you take a sip of it. It's not like, oh, this is bad. It's one of those beers that it needs to be ice cold right out of the bottle. Okay, number 4. This is our most recently, as of recording this, our most recently reviewed beer, the Miller Lite. You score. We both gave it actually. Again, the same score. We have the same views on these beers. 1.85 on 5, and that almost had its own form of the Karakuchi.
It did, and I will say, that beer surprised me quite a bit because
it did, right?
For being a light beer. And I had it before, obviously, but I never really, analyzed it like we did. And still to this day, like I think it is a little bit too light to my liking, but it is a light beer. So I guess like my point here is like I'm not a huge fan of light beers to begin with, but for a light beer, that really achieved the goal perfectly. So maybe not my choice, but very well done.
Yeah, it's one of those beers that you need to. It's for people who want to drink like 8 of something, right? Like that's what Miller Lite is for. Like we couldn't believe like how quickly it just disappeared on the finish. That was the most shocking thing about Miller Lite. You took a sip and it was just gone instantly. There was nothing there. It was like beer air. It was just empty. It was just a void, a beer void. It's like if that's your thing, if you're just looking to drink a cold carbonated beverage and pound like 5 or 6 of them, I guess the Miller Lite's right up your alley. Nothing wrong with it. Just not enough character there. All right, number 3, kind of on the same lines. I don't have any strong feelings about this beer, but it's Coors Light at number 3. This is interesting, okay? Because you rated it 1.33. I rated it 2.33. I think that's one of the biggest discrepancies in our ratings that we've seen, to have a full point difference like that. That doesn't happen too often.
You're absolutely right, man. Like, and when it comes with Coors, a little bit going on the line of what you were saying about Budweiser, I think it's a beer that is meant to drink ice cold out of the can or on tap, and it's got to be, those mountains really have to be blue.
Oh, they got to be blue. They got to be.
In a review setting like we do, for me, the longer it's set out and the more we analyzed it, really brought out like some of the probably less favorable parts of that beer.
For sure.
It's not very easily available in Italy. So up until recently, until I moved here in the US, like I didn't really have access to it. So I don't have a lot of connections to it. And I didn't have a lot of time, a lot of experiences trying it. That might have factored into the score. But to be honest with you, like when it's ice cold, I think it's a fine beer. It's a nice beer.
Look, I have a couple of friends, like some of my oldest friends, who they drink Coors Light exclusively because it's cheap, it's accessible, and it's better than like a Budweiser. It's better than like in Canada than like a Labatt Blue or Molson Canadian. It's just very subtle. It's very non-offensive. It barely tastes like beer, right? So if it's ice cold and you pull it out of a cooler and it's a hot summer day, or you're fishing, you're camping, you're out, you know, and this is a group of friends, like we do a lot of outdoor activities together. So it's like when you're out doing something and you just want something refreshing to drink, you want a beer, you get a nice cold can of Coors Light. It's you know, it does the job.
It does the job.
It's a cold carbonated alcoholic beverage to drink that kind of tastes like beer. In the rating system, when you break it down and we have it open and poured and you're smelling it and you're analyzing the mouthfeel, it just didn't hold up so well. Number 2 of our the PBR, the Pabst Blue Ribbon. You rated it 1.5. Surprisingly, shockingly, I rated it higher than you did at 1.67. For some reason, like if you look at the trends, so if you go to beer-brackets.com and you go to beer ratings, you can see all our past beer ratings. The trend is that I tend to rate things a little bit lower than Alessandro does. If you look at the overall average, we both consider ourselves positive beer explorers, but he's a little bit more positive than I am. But with these shitty beers, he rates them lower than I do, which is weird. I don't get this trend. It's an aberration in the beer trends. I don't understand.
It's a strange. It might have to do with the fact that I'm not used to some of the, you know.
Yeah, that might be it. That's
it might be. It's just like, you know, it's like it needs some time to become like beer acquaintances as a beer explorer.
Yeah.
So that might be part of it.
So what do you remember of PBR?
Well, PBR, again, like it's a beer that I find like reliable to some capacity in the sense that depending on where you are, it's very available, and you can you know.
Available.
I will say I prefer that compared to some other light options, even if maybe in the score it doesn't necessarily reflect.
This is the only beer of these that like I wouldn't take ice. I hate. I have such bad associations with PBR. I don't get it. I think it's like such a dirty beer. For me, PBR has like just this. It has like a roughness to it, and it like. I just remember like it upsetting my stomach and getting like headaches and like vicious hangovers. Like when I was in my like early 20s, late, you know, 18, 19, early 20s in Montreal. Like PBR was the hipster beer, and I had a lot of friends that were hipsters. I like to think I wasn't hip. Most of my friends were hipsters, and we hung out in hipster neighborhoods, like trendy neighborhoods in Montreal. I had friends who had apartments, so we're always going out to shows and stuff and seeing concerts. So like I was always around at hipster bars and venues around hipsters, and so I drank a lot of PBR. Every house party I went to, there was just cases of PBR everywhere. So it was just like the beer that I drank a lot of in that period of time, unwillingly, because I was poor and like it was just that's what was available. But man, it was rough. Every time I would drink it, it would just be like, oh my God, the hangover is off PBR. It's like it would mess with me. I'm surprised I gave it a 1 point. I'm surprised I rated it higher than you.
You did.
I should have been a strong 0.
That's the funny part.
Number 1. Our number 1 lowest rated beer, the only beer to fall in the It's Beer category so far, is Busch Light. It's probably one of my favorite reviews that we've done too.
I agree on that, my friend. I think it's it might be the worst beer that we've rated, but it is probably one of my favorite reviews. Like that's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
I just laugh every time I watch that.
It was so much fun. Look how flat this got instantly. Look at this. But it looks like apple juice. I just poured it out. The head instantly disappeared. Instantly.
It's magic, my friend. Like,
and we both rated it 1, by the way. That was the
well. That seems fitting. Like we gave it a point.
We gave it a point. It's a beer. It's a beer, so it got a point.
The biggest thing that I remember from that review is that it's just a mistake to pour it out.
It is.
You just don't pour it out. Don't do that.
Don't pour it out.
Just drink it out of the can.
Drink it ice cold, straight out of the can.
Yep.
That's it. Don't mess around with it. It's functional. It's meant to be a cheap functional beverage. Keep it on ice. Straight out of the can, drink it as quickly as possible. Don't let it come anywhere near your nose because you're going to get whiffs of sewage, raw sewage. So keep it away. But yeah, it's a beer.
It's a beer. It's a beer.
It's a beer. Let us know down below, everybody. What are some of your least favorite beers? If you were a beer reviewer, put yourself in our shoes. What do you think your lowest rated beers would be? And
let us know.
Whatever you do, click that beer bell on the way out because it's going to let you know when we're in the pub. You're going to get a notification from YouTube saying, hey, come on, hang out with Joe and Alessandro in the pub. Chill out, have a beer, have a Pabst, along with Joe.
And no matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Don't have a Pabst. Don't do it. Have a celebratory. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.